Old school
What can't
My
these
wife and
words
I over the last few years, I've lost probably 4 or 5 friends in their 50s. 13 years ago. And she literally was retiring and walking away like in 2 months. My dad had retired years before. And
At this time, we'd like to start the meeting. If we can work our way back to our
all
seats.
that time, all that
All right,
planning,
yeah,
all
I
that
was just curious.
saving, never got to
Might as
enjoy
well.
a single moment of it. And like I said, the friends of
I'm not
mine,
hitting that.
57,
Somebody told me
54, 59.
Okay, I would like to call to order the Oregon City Council meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Committee of the Whole.
It's tough.
For July 21st, 2025. The time is 7:20. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is a Committee of the Whole meeting, and attendance is not required. However, please note that all council members are present. Also joining us this evening is Mayor Michael Safarian, our City Administrator, Joel Major, our Clerk of Council, Josette Snyder, Public Service Director, Paul Roman, Chief of Police, Brandon Began, Assistant Chief of Police, Ryan Spangler, our Fire Chief, Clayton O'Brien, our Assistant Fire Chief, Mark Mullins, and Finance Director, Nick Roman, and Director of IT, Ken Meister. Our first order of business this evening is persons and delegations. Okay, our first person to speak is Steve Dunaway. Mr. Dunaway, if you would, please come up to the mic and state your name and address for the record.
Steve Dunaway, 24 South Coy. Had a very interesting day today, and while we've had a lot of disruption following a zoning meeting, I think that we all need to be adults and step back and think about something. I went and I visited our superintendent of schools today over the possibility of not getting this project done over here. The superintendent of the school system told me that the school system is already in dire trouble. The state is cutting money. We're coming into a brand-new school year. He knows it's over $1 million they're losing immediately, but they don't know where it's going to stop. The Board of Education has also, within the last 3 weeks, gotten together, and they've had a lot of discussions about the possibility of ever passing another property tax in this city, and they anticipate they can't even entertain wanting another levy in this city for at least 15 years. So the prospects of losing a major tax revenue in this city will be dire to our school system because their portion of the money is more than the portion for the city. It'll devastate our schools. We might as well decide that if we're not going to all get together and push that this is a done deal over here, quit arguing about we didn't throw old people out of their homes. They agreed, they signed contracts, we bought the houses, we're going to change zoning on buildings that we own, taxpayers own. We own them. We need to rezone them. We need this project to go through. Otherwise, we might as well say our school system will be no better than Toledo Public. Because that's what the superintendent said. I would advise you, go by and see the guy. Talk to him. He'll tell you things you ain't going to want to hear. He really will. Well, so I went a little bit further. You know, this is a union city. There's a lot of union workers. I'm IBEW. I was making phone calls to local union halls. They really want the work. This is big work. It's not only the data center, but it's that power plant over here. That's 4 to 5 years of honest, good labor for union workers to work in construction. I would say that's work that pays high wages that this city, we get to collect the taxes on. That would help too. And I just really, I commend the administration of the city for pushing forward. But I was so upset with the zoning meeting that I called Josette and I got the email for the chairman of that committee. That's a citizen of my city who volunteers, and it sounds like he's volunteered for decades to serve this city. And for what went on, that was shameful. And the worst part, the thing that I thought was even more shameful, no matter how I would care about anything that happens in this room, I wouldn't sit in these chairs and clap. That was disgraceful of people that are citizens of my city, that they would clap when the chairman was that upset. I just think we need to be adults and really look at what's at stake here. You know, I want a fire station built. I really do. But it sounds like my granddaughter is going to need a school system. And like I say, you go in, you do a little research, and you find things out. Think about what that data center's doing. I did a little extra research and asked about some property to the east of there that the city of Toledo owns. Nothing this city will do to stop the puddle that they're going to build. The puddle that's going to have 8-foot fencing with razor wire and bright lights to keep it secure. And we're worried about that we bought people out so they could move away from the industrial area. What the city of Toledo is going to do over there, if they do it, is going to be really bad. And I come to find out with a phone call down to Columbus, there's nothing this city can do to stop the city of Toledo from doing it. One, they're a government agency. Two, it's a utility run by a government agency. They will dig their puddle, and the puddle's not going to be pretty. So I just thank you. I really am pushing for the zoning. I would ask one question. Do you guys have any idea when you get to vote on that, on the zoning?
Probably be August 25th.
August 25th. From all the union halls I talked to, are there business agents welcome in this room to come up and talk and support?
Of course, anybody is.
They can come. Out of 7 phone calls I made, their business agents are very much interested in coming into this room, that they support this construction. They want this construction. This is the type of work that these guys, it's not retail work that makes them money. Building refineries, building power plants, building this data center, that's going to keep electricians busy for 5 years, running tens of thousands of feet of wire. And they are interested and they're very supportive. I'm got a letter together to send to them, so I'll keep track of the date, and I'm going to ask them to come.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
thank
Dunaway.
you.
Thank you. Next up is Chris Belli. Mr. Belli, please name and address for the record.
Chris Belli, 2068 Lilas Drive, repeat offender from last week. That was a joke. I feel like I debated on whether or not it was useful to come talk again today, but after giving it some thought and talking to some folks, I think there's some things I can pile on here and kind of try to dig down to what my root problem is right now and where I'd like to see us maybe be able to find an answer. I'm not necessarily saying that council has the answer, but somebody in this building at least. Steve Shrake was incredibly generous with his time today and spent a bunch of time talking to me on the phone, so I appreciate his time and just want to mention that. So the situation right now that I'm dealing with is that on what I would consider more than normal level, there is something unusual that happens at the larger Airbnb that's directly across the street from me. Now, they have a permit, and the permit says that if they repeat offend the rules of the permit, they could potentially lose the permit, which suggests that there's some way to police this. However, after talking to Mr. Strake and a few other folks, I'm not sure where that ability lies. And I'll give you a couple examples. I hate to laundry list all of my complaints here, but I'll just give you the examples because it's really the best way to give you some idea. So probably these would fall under nuisance complaints, but my nuisance complaint doesn't mean anything if you can't go out and see it. So if it happens on the weekend and the zoning department's closed, they're not necessarily going to come out and deal with that, or have the means to deal with it. And then there's the questions of they're permitted for a certain amount of people, but I frequently see more than that permitted amount spending the night there. And how do you police that? And then there's also what I would consider how you even define a nuisance. So in June, I was relatively certain there were more than the 8 people that are allowed to spend the night there. At 11 o'clock at night, I ended up with 3 squad cars, a fire engine, and an ambulance because a couple of the guests had gotten a hold of some brownies that had some stuff in them and had called the squad. So could this happen? I call these the yeah buts. Yeah, but that could happen, right, with your neighbor. If you just had a neighbor, yeah, but it happens every 2 or 3 weeks, or at least once a month in the summer to some extent. I just recently had 7 cars come down the street. One of them decided to park directly in front of the no parking sign that's been there since I moved in 20 years ago. I politely asked the guy if he was an Airbnb-er and explained that he was supposed to park in his driveway, and ended up in a not argument, but at least a discussion as to why I cared whether he would park there or not. Now, if he parked there, it was Saturday, and the postman lady can't really even get to my mailbox if he parks there, plus just there's a no parking sign there. So I consider both of those things nuisances to me, because one of them, I was essentially out there talking to the police who needed to use my driveway to park one of the cars, and really didn't fall asleep till 1 in the morning. And then I'm just like, it's a nice Saturday afternoon, and why do I have dudes who want to park in front of my mailbox who are from Columbus? So you can see this kind of convoluted mess as to what this really means. Another interesting scenario, and one of the things I actually talked to Ms. Ackerman about, and I actually discussed this with my wife, if you have any experience with Airbnbs, and my experience was that they are very strict about who you have there, and we've actually been required to, like, if her father was coming over to visit, had to tell them, oh, there's going to be one other person over here visiting. And that's Mrs. Ackerman's experience when she has rented an Airbnb, whereas this place, just not the weekend after last, the owner had to come over and break up a party, at which point they were exceeding the 9 cars that they're allowed to have 8 cars in the driveway, if you can imagine that, and they had 9 cars in the driveway, cars in the street. I think she figured it out with her security camera, came down and essentially it appeared that she asked them to leave. My point to this being, maybe we'll all give her credit for coming over there, but why is that happening in the first place? Like, why did these people think that that was going to be okay? That party included a very large bounce house with like a water slide. So, and those events happen usually from people locally. So this was a local group who converged on that piece of property to throw the party. That particular one technically would break the rules of the permit because they're only supposed to have 8 cars parked there. Whether, I don't know how many of those people were sleeping overnight, but what is that, right? What is that? And how is any of this my problem? Like, am I supposed to be the one who calls the owner and says, hey, there's like way too many people at your house again, without any means of accountability for them? So that's kind of drilling down to what the big thing is right now. Like, who is gonna, how is this going to be, if you want to call it policed or regulated or held accountable for this stuff, and what is and isn't a nuisance? And I actually said to Mr. Schrake, I'm like, look, I have this list, do you even want me to send these things to you? Is this just garbage that is going to waste your time because you can't even act on it? And he's actually looking into that, if there's any utility even having the piece of paper, because it's not like he can run over there and figure out that 2 days ago there was a party, as opposed to a nuisance of, tall grass or a wrecked garage. So, again, I appreciate your time. That's where I'm at. Thanks for listening again.
Thank you, Mr. Bella. And our last person that has signed in is Fran Wilbur. Ms. Wilbur, if you would, name and address for the record.
Fran Wilbur, 3226 North Eastmoreland Drive. I'm here because of the comment that was made last week and on the news, that we are in dire straits now. If we're in dire straits, why are we buying more land? Mr. Mayor, you've been a mayor how long? I don't believe any mayor has spent more than they should. We pay enough in taxes. We should not be in dire straits. And if we are, we've overspent. We need to figure out where we overspent at. Because for our city to grow, if we're in dire straits, it ain't gonna happen. Anybody can do a checkbook and no. The only thing it reminds me of, honestly, when you decided you were gonna build an industrial park, it reminds me of when the city of Toledo did the same thing to residents there. They were building an industrial park. They had multiple companies gonna come in. They made the city of Oregon disappear. Everybody lived in Oregon had to move, took their homes, everything. Kind of like what we're doing. Not everybody's home, but eventually it's gonna be a lot more. And that sat empty for either 45 or 50 years. That is a shame. It totally is a shame. I cannot stress enough, I am so disappointed. I grew up there out in South Shore Park where they have nothing. Those kids have nothing. Why couldn't we, you've said numerous times, why can't, it'd be nice to have a rink, something like that for the kids. Why can't it go out there? Why does it have to go in here? These kids don't have transportation. There's bike paths, but how many of you this day and age would want your even 11 or 12-year-old alone riding a bike? People are really stupid now, we all know that. And as far as this corner that you are talking about putting this establishment, that was isn't that one of those major corners you guys said there was a lot of fatalities and needed a roundabout? What is this business gonna do for it? For that? I mean, I'm just being honest, I'm just asking a question. What's gonna happen? We're gonna have more fatalities. Could be me, could be you, could be a family member. But you needed to figure out the roadway before you guys planned an industrial park. And I feel bad for everybody in the way, because everything I've heard isn't good about these. And if people do the research, they're going to come up with the same answer. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Mayor.
of course, I'd like to respond to that. And I did say the city could find themselves in a position that would relate to dire straits. And that is because we currently depend on revenue. We're an industrial-based city. We get a lot of revenue from our 2 refineries and how they conduct business there. Refineries conduct business differently than they did in the past. And their revenue streams, where they show net earnings profits that come to the city, are not declared here the same way they were before. So our revenue streams were decreased. Because we did make wise decisions on having reserves, rainy day funds, which we do have. We didn't overspend. We did responsible spendings. We invested in possibilities that would return the money that we currently aren't getting. This year we'll spend more money than we made, but we have reserves to take up. We figured for that. But we also figured if we don't do something to raise our revenue streams, we will fall in dire straits. But we're ahead of that.
Please, if you would come up to the mic.
No, she's
No,
got her turn.
Thank you.
I could be, but I could have swore you said we are in dire straits or close to it. It was on the news.
I'll admit to, we would be close to it if we continue at this rate.
Okay,
Let me finish answering your questions.
okay.
All right, so because we made wise investments in purchasing land and assembling it, if we didn't, we'd have 0 chance of getting a data center. You obviously don't believe it's a good investment, and that's your prerogative. I actually think you're just wrong, because we have to have something there. Most of that property exists as heavy industrial. If we were to land a heavy industrial job, manufacturing plant, the impact to that area in the parcels that are already zoned that way would be of bigger magnitude than the project that we have now. For the money that we get, the return, I can't imagine, and I've had many people, I've asked if there's something of lesser impact that have even close to the return that a data center would bring here, and no one could come up with a solution that would even come close. And you talk about traffic in that area. Yes, some of those areas have been deemed, people would deem as dangerous. But a data center, after it's built, has very little traffic around it, very few employees, yet still produces a lot of revenue for the city. So, hey, if you come up with something that you think could do this city and this school system better, hey, I'm all about it. But I'm telling you, it doesn't exist. That's better than we had dreamed about in the past. And so we can go from a position where we find the city having to make some real critical decisions to actually expanding services instead of cutting services. We can not have to raise taxes. If everything continues without any improvements, we have 3 options. We can keep the city services we have and somehow raise some taxes. We can cut the city services we have and try to maintain with what we would currently bring in, or we could raise the revenue streams with new business. We chose that route, and we chose it some years ago, and we stuck to it. We had to make commitments. We had to make real adult decisions. And is there a risk? Of course there's a risk, but it was a bigger risk to do nothing.
But we did.
A way bigger risk to do nothing.
with Kmart? Did we or did we not
Did what?
have a developer that didn't come through? Am I
Well,
right?
we did, but we currently have one that did.
Right,
And,
I'm
and
just
so,
saying-
so just because, things changed and the developer we had, we started out as a different route, didn't mean we made a bad decision. Had we not purchased that property, it's gone forever. We would have had no opportunity to develop any of that land back there because it would have been sealed off. So still, I think it was still a brilliant decision at the time. It was a risk. Yet you see that all the front space is getting built right now. I feel proud, and I can announce this, can I, out next to the Culvers? Yeah, I think I can. Huh? All right, well,
Something will be happening as.
some will be
best way to
building
say it.
there, but you'll know Wednesday. All right, because, huh? Well, they told us we could.
Now-
But all right, so all of that will develop, and things will come from behind it after those are in. So, yeah, it was a success. So I know people like to come up here and talk negative, it gets headlines. There's not a lot of negative that's happening here. There's a lot of positive. When I go to other cities, they say they would like to be us. They would love to be in the position. It's really easy to critique things, but when you want to make something happen, you will always assume some risk. But all of ours is turning out really good.
Okay. What would have happened with the school, if that gentleman is still here,
Yeah,
if the data center never came?
if
If it didn't, though, he said that.
it
the
doesn't come,
superintendent-
let's put that, they lose revenue, and if it gets voted down, the property tax in the state of Ohio, they're coming after the money somewhere, and it's coming after you and me. We don't know where they'll come, but there's gonna be a real shortage, and it always comes back
I know, and there's
to,
a shortage
to us.
now. That's what I'm
So we
saying.
have an answer for it. Most cities don't.
When do
Because we
get
made
stuck at revenue?
comprehensive, wise decisions years ago to put ourselves in this position. Had we not, you'd be really looking at dire straits. I think
When
we're
do we
out of
start
it.
looking at revenues, though?
Huh?
When are we going to start seeing money come from those?
Well, if that data center happens, we will see money fairly quickly because the build-out dollars, like the tradespeople that build it, the 2.25 payroll income tax comes our way. So, yeah, we'll see it pretty quick.
Okay, but we're not a done deal yet. It's not a done deal, am I right?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So anything can happen.
Sure,
We all know that in life, anything can
Sure,
happen.
sure.
So if it doesn't, we're really in trouble then, aren't we? The schools are gonna go down. There's gonna be
Yeah.
services cut back. What happened? What happened in the last 10 years you were there? What's happened? Have we ever been this low in the city of Oregon with money?
I will say we're as healthy as we ever been.
Can
And
we
what
see
you would
those
do
papers?
is you go city to city, right around us, and you'll find that we're in better shape than almost any of them around us. So I don't know where you come up with this negativity. We're making steps so that we don't fall in.
The
And you're
negativity-
critiquing us you're critiquing us for having a plan to keep us from financial disarray.
I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that I'm
you're-
critiquing you.
Your idea, I guess, was to do nothing, not buy property. We wouldn't land any of the things. We can't control the fact that businesses around us don't bring us the revenue that they had in the past. That's
We've
not,
never had to have industrial parks before. I'm not picking on anybody. I'm asking.
Well, sure you are.
a question. I'm asking a question.
all right, and I'm trying to answer them. And we've taken steps from the beginning to foresee the future. And we did a pretty good job of it. Because, like I said, we're the envy of a lot of cities around us thinking, hey, they got a plan there. We wish, we're gonna have to catch up. We did the same thing with the fire department. When all the cities around that had paid-on-calls fire departments and found out it was real hard to do business that way, we're several years ahead of most of them. And we're answering calls because we planned for it, just like we planned for this. It took a lot of years and took a lot of heat over it. I take heat from you, take heat from anybody. That's part of the job. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't have been doing my job.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. If there's no one else to sign in, so we're going to get through into our agenda for tonight.
Mr. President,
Mr. Drake?
yes, if Mr. Chris Bell, if you go back to the stand, I just got a couple questions for you.
This isn't about boutique beer, is it?
About what?
Boutique beer?
No, I don't drink beer anymore.
I just thought that was
No,
funny.
the question I had was, I know you mentioned people park in front of the no parking signs.
That was just one incident.
Okay.
So I think she does have in the, not to interrupt, but she does have in the listing that they are supposed to park in the drive. But when you have strangers from all over converging on your street, there's gonna be that guy, right? That ordinarily you wouldn't experience. So.
Okay,
I didn't wanna make it sound like that happens all the time. It was just one
It happens
example.
once in a
of-
while.
yeah.
And I know before you said sometimes they just park in the grass. Is that correct?
So there was a party with like 25 cars. That was in February. That they parked in the yard of the Airbnb. So that was also a local party. So one person rents it, and then folks converge on it for the party itself, which is another thing that we did some research on that, my wife and I, and there's actually parts of the Airbnb or Vrbo or whatever the heck websites where they police that a local person is, they actually are kind of searching that, the algorithm or whatever is actually searching the website because that's a common thing that occurs when folks rent locally is that. And there was a murder actually in Toledo last month that was an Airbnb over by Secor Road. That was a party. So, yeah.
Okay.
And that's also in the permit. The permits say they're not allowed to park in the yard. And I think their listings also say that it's not allowed to park in the yard. But when, for example, this is a good example. So when I talked to Mr. Strake about this, like, okay, so there they are. They're in the yard now. You know, it's a Friday night, so I can't call him and say, hey, there's a nuisance. Here's my nuisance complaint. There's cars parked there. I can take a photo of it, but I don't think he can admit that as evidence. They have to go, if that's what you'd even call a nuisance complaint, but they have to go see it. So that's kind of the convolution of this whole, well, how do we actually manage this permit and the rules that it says inside of it? When it kind of the onus lies on the zoning department and they're not necessarily manned to be chasing down whether or not there are 9 people or 8 people. And I actually, like I said last week, I put a stake in the ground that, all right, the permit says there's supposed to be 8 people there, and I don't need to get in some stupid argument with you about whether there's a problem, because why is there a problem if there's only 9? You know, because, okay, well then what's 11 or what's 12? Or because 8 people can make plenty of noise and plenty of commotion, and 4 parents and 4 kids who haven't seen each other are making plenty of noise and plenty of commotion. So, yeah.
So my guess is, and I know Melissa isn't here, and I don't think anybody else up here is an attorney. So after hours, if this happens, you know, they're parked on the grass, whatever, you know, it might be petty, but, you know, it isn't to you and a lot of the people that probably live on the street. I mean, I'm just curious if the police, maybe Brandon, you could answer it, chief of police. I don't know how you'd handle something like that. I know you're not gonna go in the house and count people, but I do know there is an ordinance that you either gotta park on the cement, blacktop, or stone, and you're not supposed to be parking on the grass. I do know that.
Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I mean, there are parking regulations for uncurbed roadways, which I assume is all that up there. And that's regulations with the parking alongside the roadway. If somebody parks up in the grass, you know, next to the garage or something, I don't know what the property looks like. I mean, I think it would be enough probably to take photographs and turn it over. We typically deal with criminal parking and all that, and not looking into how many people are in a house or, you know, whether they parked on the grass near the house. That's more zoning than anything.
Okay, yeah, and it's just kind of my point, and I know I've complained before about, you know, we enforce citizens to mow their grass, and then there's areas of the city where the grass is as tall as I am. I know I talked to the people next to Dunn's there at that, the care home, and I was talking to them, and I asked them about if they like the fireworks, and they loved it. I know the mayor said that before, and I just seen them out there, and a real nice group of people, and the first thing they did is compliment how that land to the west there had just gotten mowed, and she was explaining it was like 4 or 5 foot tall. So, you know, my point is if we're gonna have laws and rules, you go by them. And if you're not gonna enforce things, I guess, why even have them? You know, that's the good thing about living in a city. We can put ordinances in. I mean, you can have a free-for-all, I believe, townships similar to that. And it's like, we're a city, we're not the St. Mayberry.
Yeah, I think from looking at this and lots of perspectives and trying to understand how the legal part of it would work. So if the Airbnb after city quiet hours, which is 11 o'clock, was at a level of noise that I was like, yeah, that's probably in that decibel that code XYZ says, then that would be appropriate to call the police. But calling the police because the Airbnb is breaking its permit is not appropriate, at least the way I've kind of figured it out. So at the party that went till 4 in the morning and required 3 responses, that's pretty easy. Like, it's 2 in the morning and there's 20 cars out in front of my house. They're gonna respond just because that situation could get ridiculous, even if they're not making a lot of noise, and just figure out what's going on. But for interpretation, you know, if there's 8 people there playing cornhole and making a little bit of noise at midnight, that's probably not, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so.
All right, thank you.
No, I appreciate the additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Thank you, Chief. The first item on the agenda for tonight's discussion is item 119 of 2025. That's being presented by Mayor Safarian and Fire Chief Clayton O'Brien. Chief, I'm going to let you take it in just a second, but just to council, there's additional supporting document that was added today to this ordinance. This info will be added to the ordinance for next week, but you should have the paperwork that Chief was able to send out to us today. It says additional supporting document for item 119 of 2025. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President and Council. This original ordinance is for the purchase of power cots and loads and stair chairs, but also does include the purchase of a bariatric cot. I am going to request tonight that we do remove this ordinance because of some changes with what we're going to purchase. So this ordinance is at $193,295.63, but with some new information and really a communication breakdown in my office, we're no longer going to be purchasing that bariatric cot, so that's going to be a savings of about $17,000. So we're going to come back with this ordinance in the future with the new price and just rewrote as far as the 2 power cots, the loads for the new ambulances, and just the 2 stair chairs. And we're going to remove that purchase of the bariatric cot. And just to give you some context on that, there's been a lot of conversation in our office about, some long-term care facilities within our area. And a bariatric cot is just a wider piece of specialized equipment that carry, larger individuals. But with some changes in the residents that they're accepting in their facilities, they're no longer going to be accepting those residents in Oregon. So that was a drastic change and actually a very positive one for us. But with that being said, that's the need for this change, and this was not going to be under an emergency anyways. But we would still be bringing this back due to the fact that there is an expected price increase coming October 1st, 2025 with Stryker Corporation. So we would like to get the PO in place for the rest of the equipment prior to that date. But we will come back future with that removed bariatric cot.
Thank you, Chief. Council, any questions or comments? Hearing none, I will seek a motion to move item 119 of 2025 to next week's agenda.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr.
I think he's asking to pull the ordinance from
Oh, you're
consideration.
pulling, okay. Correct. I thought that's what you said, you were gonna bring it next week, but it's a future meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. President, yes, if we'll bring it back at a future meeting, that way, and then we'll make sure that all that sole source information and stuff, that additional information is included with that. But we'll remove it from this agenda and also from next week's agenda and bring it back at a next committee of the whole. That way, if there's any conversation or other additional questions, we can handle it at a committee of the whole meeting.
So the administration is pulling item 119 of 2025?
Correct.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda for discussion is item 120, 2025, being presented by Mayor Safarian and Fire Chief Clayton O'Brien. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President and Council. This ordinance will allow us to enter an agreement with BioCare, who does our annual physicals, our annual firefighter physicals. And so what we do each year is we put out a number for sign up so we can get a better accurate number of how many individuals are going to sign up for those physicals. And that's how we come up with the amount of the number that you see there, 15,425.
Thank you, Chief. Council, any questions or comments? Hearing none, I will seek a motion to move item 120 of 2025 to next week's agenda.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff?
so moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Pauloff.
Second.
Second by Mr. Salander. We have a motion by Mrs. Pauloff, second by Mr. Salander to move item 120 of 2025 to next week's agenda. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, item 120 of 2025 is moved to next week's agenda. The next item on the agenda for discussion is item 121 of 2025, being presented by Mayor Safarian and IT Director Ken Meister.
Thank you, Mr. President. Basically, this agreement will essentially be a renewal of the existing agreement with some reduced services. They'll be dropping the help desk that Perry Tech currently provides, along with, they respond more to like general alerts and whatnot, and those responsibilities will go to myself as the IT department. We'll continue to do network monitoring, EDR, which is basically antivirus essentially on their systems, backups through them and all that kind of stuff. And then if we do run into an issue or need more additional support, we'll use them as an as-needed basis. They'll be plugged into basically everything as is currently, just slightly reduced as far as more proactive services kind of thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Council, any questions or comments? Hearing none, I will seek a motion to move item 121 of 2025 to next week's agenda.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Wallen's
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I make a motion to move item number 121 of 2025 to next week's regular meeting agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Wallen's.
Second.
Mr. Drake? Second by Mr. Drake. We have a motion by Mr. Wallen's, second by Mr. Drake to move item 121 of 2025 to next week's agenda. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, item 121 of 2025 is moved to next week's agenda. Our next item on the agenda is, for discussion, is item 122, being presented by Mayor Safarian and Director of Public Service, Paul Roman. Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is needed to enter into a LPA, local public agency agreement with ODOT for the bid and construction of the Star Avenue repaving project. The city has been awarded a $500,000 grant from the Federal Highway Administration to repave Star from Whittlesey to the West Corp limit by 280, as well as Wheeling Street from Northvale to Randall Drive. This project does include, it's mainly repaving most of the surface, but there is a full reconstruction from Earlwood to the West Corp line. So the LPA agreement is included in Exhibit A. Simply allows the city to serve as a local public agency. What that means is it allows us to administer both the design and construction, and those responsibilities are listed in the agreement. The project is scheduled to be bid next year. The reason for the emergency, at least to execute the LPA agreement now, is that we would like to apply for OPWC grant funding, which has been moved up by a month and a half. It'll be due at the end of August. I will come back in to this same council and ask for approval to submit another grant application to OPWC. Well, this LPA agreement, when you can show you have grant funding with another agency, it actually helps you get more grant funding. And so that's the idea. So the reason for the emergency is the agreement's really needed for another grant application. But the project won't happen until next year. I just wanted to explain that. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Drake.
Mr. Roman, it says on here that it's going to be, hang on, let me see here, resurfacing of Star Avenue. Are they going to mill it or rip it out like they are on,
So,
I believe it's Springtime East? I drove through there yesterday.
yeah. So the majority of it will be milled 3 inches down and then 2 layers of asphalt put back. But from Earlwood to the West Corp line, that's a full rebuild. That's literally, because it's an old concrete pavement that's shot. You can't just resurface that. Those cracks will come right back on you. So that section we have to rebuild, just so you know. So it's a lot of work.
Okay, is there a big difference whether it's 2 inches or 3 inches of the top coat? Because I know our street was top coated and it didn't last.
Well, see, so, yeah, and typically, the best application is a 3-inch mill. It's typically the amount of asphalt that is your top 2 layers, intermediate and surface course. It's usually 3 inches, so it's just the ideal. But there's also base repair in some sections, if you find it, you know, an old joint or something to that degree. A lot of it'll be that, but the bigger work will be between Earlwood and the West Corp line, okay?
Okay, and so it's cheaper than to put asphalt down on cement?
No, a lot of it may just be asphalt in most of the area. It's just that section from Earlwood to the West Corp line is an old concrete road that had asphalt on top of it. I think to keep just milling it and putting it back, I think where the concrete is just downright going bad. This is the problem we had on Pickle between Woodville and Wheeling Street. Same thing, old concrete road. It's not easy. Doesn't mean we won't fix it, but I'm just telling you, here, Star Avenue has a high traffic count. It's an interchange to 280. It was a perfect applicant to get this first 500,000, okay? And I think it's also a perfect applicant for OPWC money, okay? So it's just some areas apply better, and if you can get that grant money, to me, it's like, do it right, you know? Do full reconstruction where you need it, you know what I mean?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, anything further? Hearing none, I will seek a motion to move item 122 of 2025 to next week's agenda. Is that Mr. Horniak?
I move to forward item 122 of 2025 to next week's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. We have a motion by Mr. Horniak, second by Mr. Drake to move item 122 of next week's agenda. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, item 122 of 2025 is moved to next week's agenda. And our last item on the agenda for tonight is item 123 of 2025, being presented by Mayor Safarian and Police Chief Brandon Began. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I get into the ordinance itself, I want to give a little bit of lead up to where we are with this. So we spoke quite a bit over the last year or more about the COPS grant that we received, which was the federal funding through the Department of Justice. In that grant that we were approved for the purchase of 2 canines to revitalize our canine officer positions out here after Grimm was taken out of service at the end of his working life. And we have come across the opportunity with Shallow Creek Kennels, that is who trained our previous canine before, that they do have a single opening in September with a essentially graduation date for the canine and the handler at the end of October. So because of that, we're trying to move forward quickly to be able to get a vehicle that would be in stock, get it outfitted, and have it ready for our canine officer once they return, so we don't have a canine without a vehicle to use. Once we found out that we had the opening in the class, that we could get in earlier, we made the decision to do 1 officer now. The next officer will go to another available class next spring sometime. So we started to look at vehicles. Initially, we had put in the budget and we were approved for 2 Chevy Tahoe vehicles. The way that the bid process works, or the ordering process for new vehicles, it would take us quite some time to do that. So we started looking at other options where anybody may have a vehicle ready and on the lot. We did speak with Montrose, who is the state bid contract pricing for the Ford Interceptors that we have, and they do not have any in stock on the lot. We did get lucky with Bauman Ford, who we've purchased vehicles for many years. They did order 1 more that's our exact specs, and they have it on the lot. So it's something that we can obtain immediately. And there is a benefit to having a Ford Interceptor that can be keyed with every other vehicle. So all of our officers would be able, in an emergency situation or a vehicle needs moved, they could use their key and be able to move that car. So there's some benefit to that as well. We did reach out to the Chevy dealer, and we're in the same boat there. We're not able to get a vehicle immediately. There was the other company who Fire bought their 2 Tahoes from that do have them in stock. But that is, with having the Bauman vehicle and having it be an Interceptor that can kind of plug into our fleet, we thought that was a better option, and it's better than the state contract pricing. So this ordinance itself, we are bringing forward as an emergency just due to the situation with having the canine officer being ready in October. And it would be for the purchase of 1 vehicle at this point, with the total is $51,102, which is well under the grant funding that we got. The benefit to that as well is we might be able to reuse that grant funding that we didn't use for the vehicles for another item that was cut, previously in the grant funding cycle when they kind of whittle it down. So there's some benefit to that as well. And the last part about it that I would like to explain, we just got our quote back from DR Ebel, who does all the outfitting of the vehicles, our lights, our radios, our computers, the canine kennel in the back and everything. We didn't get the quote back until this afternoon, so we weren't able to bring it forward tonight. But we would like to package that up and walk on another ordinance next week as an emergency, because it goes hand in hand with this vehicle. So just to give a little explanation of the pricing on that, it was 3 separate quotes. The vehicle outfitting was $25,239.94. The MDT, the mobile computer in the vehicle, totaling with installation was $7,741. And then the storage units in the back of the vehicle are $5,506.89. So I did just want to bring that up because we are going to request from the city administration to walk that on next week so we can do the vehicle and all the outfitting. What's that? Yeah, and it is all more than fully funded through the grant funding, like I said earlier. So, but I just wanted to bring all that up, and so that way you guys aren't surprised if we do get approval to walk it on next week. So I think I've explained everything. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chief. Council?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
it might be slightly off topic, but somewhat related. The same grant funding that we received was for the license plate cameras that were going to be installed around the city. Are those installed? Where are we at? Status update?
They are installed, they are active, they're being used regularly.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Council, anything further? Hearing none, I will seek a motion to move item 123 of 2025 to next week's agenda.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff.
so moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Pauloff.
Second.
Second by Mr. Salander. We have a motion by Mrs. Pauloff, a second by Mr. Salander to move item 123 of 2025 to next week's agenda. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none. Item 123 of 2025 is moved to next week's agenda. With all of the items on the agenda being considered, we will now move into the mayor's report.
I think I probably spoke too much already, so I'll have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Major.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have one small item. It was asked, I believe it was Councilman Drake asked last week how much acreage that the city owns. We do have a list of that, so I'll send it over to you if you want a paper copy of it. I've got that, so that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Mr. Roman.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Horniak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just from my Standing Committee, Economic Development and Planning, thank you all for being here tonight for the discussion as we talk about Hollydale and make considerations for that eastward mobility of that road as some of those additional parcels develop. And I think the recommendation suggestion was very valid, very good. We'll look forward to the administration somewhere over the next few weeks being able to fill us in on where that goes. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Mrs. Pauloff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing from my standing committee. It's been a while since I've been to the water treatment plant. So I remember that we had some concrete work in the sum of $3 million. So last week I took a ride over there and walked around. It's $3 million worth of concrete. But to see empty water cells and see how deep they went, that was a totally different perspective from the last time I went out there. But it looks brand new out there, and from what I mean, concrete is not forever, especially when you're dealing with chemicals and water. So kudos to them out there for keeping everything up to date, and I want to thank Doug Wagner for allowing me to come out and walk me around, and it was a lot of concrete out there, and it really looks good, and it's really good to see that it's being kept up because it is our drinking supply. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Pauloff. Mr. Walmsley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I do not have a report from my committee, but I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but I know we had some rain events this weekend, but we did have the softball game, and I just want to thank those people that came out and supported our wounded veterans, and I'll let other people talk more about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walmsley. Mrs. Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have a tree commission meeting at 4 PM on 8/19 of '25. Everyone is always welcome. And I want to give Chief a chance to plug the blood drive. Are all your spots filled? 10 left. So that's Wednesday, beginning at like 8 AM? Okay. Yeah, oh, you're number one, okay, it's a bragger. So I'm giving platelets for the first time, so anybody wants to watch me get queasy, come and join us, but please consider giving blood. I have O positive, and I know it's in demand, and I do love that you, if you sign up through the Red Cross, you can trace where your blood goes and what hospital or what facility ends up utilizing it. And I think that's so encouraging to know that to find out where the endpoint is. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ackerman. Mr. Sandlander.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing from my standing committee. I just had a few questions that my memory was jogged a little bit today. So since we were talking about financials, with my background in banking and in financials with that, when I hear the words that we're in a slight dire strait financially, and that's quote unquote, I went back to check the wording on that, but that's a red flag to me. And so I have some questions that Melissa is not here, so I don't know, Nick, maybe you can help me with this too, because it has to do with financials, obviously. Just a few things that I would like to get. I would like to know what outstanding debt does the city currently have? And if I could have those listed by project or item. Who do we owe money to? And then the dates that we entered into each item and for what purpose. I'll follow up with you so you don't have to remember all that, but just a few items there that I just would like to have for my own peace of mind, being that was stated. Also, one other thing, I just wanted to clarify something. There were some posts on Facebook, and I was really honored by the picture on the side of a car out there. It was pretty neat. But I just wanted to clarify, there were some things out there that were said that were 100% inaccurate. There were some assumptions made that there is no facts to back up. One of them is that stating that, for one, that I'm against the data center. That's not true. I'm not. I am actually in favor of, and I've said it multiple times in multiple meetings, that I think it's a great thing for the industrial park. And I'm looking forward to making sure that our city and our services and our schools are funded. So those statements are absolutely incorrect. The other thing is that, I mean, with the zoning part of it, and I was at the meeting, the planning commission meeting, and my attendance doesn't mean I'm against it. It means that I'm listening, and that's okay. And it got a little heated. I'll give you that. That could have maybe been changed a little bit on that, but we have to learn, I think, as elected officials, to take questions. We have to learn that people have a right to ask us a question. I don't have to agree with you, and that's okay. It's called a discussion, and we work for them. And so when they ask us questions, I think we need to not take it so personally and not be so defensive and condescending and rude. We need to learn to be a little bit more respectful. And at times, we as elected officials need to understand sometimes people may come at us a little bit rude, and trust me, I get it. I receive it too. Not as much apparently, but there's a few people and pictures on the side of a car. But I'm not gonna be disrespectful and rude just because they disagree with me. Because when we were elected, we are here and we are elected to serve not just the people who vote for us, but also the people who didn't vote for us. For the people that call us names, for the people that, whatever it is, we work for them too. So it's hard, yeah, it's hard, and you gotta have some thick skin. But we need to learn collectively to be able to take questions and take people's concerns and not be so defensive and not be so rude and, just be respectful. We need to learn to be respectful. So that being said, correction of what was said on social media. I am not opposed to data centers in the industrial zone at all, and I look forward to it. So I have some questions on the process, which we'll cover that later. But anyway, that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Salander. Mr. Drake?
I have nothing from my committee. I've ran into a few citizens out in public, and a couple questions they had. I don't know who they are. I don't use names anyways, because I know how that can go. The first question is, how many acres has Toledo bought in Oregon for the reservoir located at the corner of Corduroy and Wynn area? And would Toledo be willing to sell the property for a data center and charge Oregon? Just a question.
Mr. President, if I may.
Mr. Major?
I can answer the first question. It's 135 acres. It's one parcel.
135.
I believe it was sold to the city of Toledo in 2023.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I didn't catch the second question?
I haven't asked that yet.
Okay.
The other question was, and just for the record, I was here for the meeting with the data plant. And yeah, there were people emotional, but I've also been in this room for a council meeting and somebody act like a banny rooster with their head cut off. And so it can happen anywhere. So I just wanted to state that point. The other question was, I ran into this fella at, I believe it was Menards, not that it matters. He said he lives in, behind Bay Area Credit Union, I forget that subdivision. Park Alonde, thank you. He's had 2 power outages in the last 4 weeks. And his concern was, would a data center help with the power? Or he basically wondered what would have caused that. And I don't know if anybody knew. I knew the one day I live on Holly Drive around by Circle K on Star and Wheeling. And I know we lost power, which is rare. We hardly ever do. But it was out for probably a good 2 or 3 hours. He was just curious, and I told him I would ask.
Mr. President.
Mr. Major?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Drake. I hear a lot about the concerns about electricity and rates and everything else, and a lot of that, I'm kind of compiling a list of things that can help address some of those concerns. But as for how a data center would affect the distribution system in the city, and the answer is it's negligible because they're tying directly into the transmission lines. There's a 345 kV line that on the north side of the city.
What's a kV line?
Kilovolt.
Kilovolt,
So
okay.
that's a very high, that's a big transmission line is what I'm saying. And it's, they'll be tying in directly to that. And also they'll be building, they've proposed building on-site generation to help offset some of the usage from the grid. So that has no effect on the distribution line, which is like your residential, commercial use lines. So, but I will say though, he said he had 2 power outages in the last 2 weeks.
I believe he said 4 weeks.
4 weeks, and I am familiar with one of them. There was a malfunction at the substation, and then I don't know about the second time. If there was a time that he could provide, then we can pinpoint when that outage was and check with the utility company to see what the cause of that was, if they know.
All right. Thank you. And like I said, I wasn't here for the whole meeting. I had another commitment. I was here, I think, for the first 45 minutes, and I don't have an opinion on it yet. I'm going to wait until, I don't know if they're going to have another seminar or meet and greet with council. So that's to be determined, I guess. And on a more positive note, I'd like to thank Joel Major and Tim Borton for the U.S. amputees that were here this weekend. I know I had to take one of the guys back to the airport Sunday, and he said it was he's been with them for 11 years. he said the layout, the times were great, because he said a lot of times when they go to a city, they're only there for 2 days and they have too much going on. They can't ever take a break and it's just nonstop. So he was very happy about that. They also have a kids camp that they said it was probably the biggest camp they've ever had as far as kids signing up. So the rec department did a great job. I know Joel was there all day helping out, Tim Borton. And then the last thing is, you know, they said they had a great time. They enjoyed the city, and I just want to thank, I was nervous. I was 100% healthy when I talked to him to come here, and I was worried because a lot of times you can't count on a lot of people, and you know how I can be. If you did a bad job, I would be scared to say it, but thanks, Joel, and thanks the city and Tim Burton. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. I have nothing from my standing committee, but I do have to set some public hearings, so I might as well get started with it. The first one, and these public hearings are all for 7 PM in our council chambers on Monday, August 25th. Application Z821-25 for zoning change from A1 Agricultural District to Advanced Manufacturing District on the property described as 4825 Corduroy Road, parcel number 44-09964, approximately 9.5 acres, more or less. 4919 Corduroy Road, parcel number 44-09970, approximately 1.515 acres, more or less. And 4811 Corduroy, parcel number 44-10111, approximately 0.5005 acres, more or less. This zoning change is being initiated by the City of Oregon on behalf of the owner, Oregon Economic Development Foundation. The second public hearing is application Z-822-25 for zoning change from A1 Agricultural District to Advanced Manufacturing District on the property described as 445 North Wind Road, parcel number 44-09971, approximately 1.904 acres, more or less. This zoning change is being initiated by the City of Oregon on behalf of owner Valerie A. Bauer. Applications, the next one is application Z-823-25 for zoning change from A1 Agricultural District to Advanced Manufacturing District on the property described as 505 North Wind Road, parcel number 44-09969, approximately 2.189 acres, more or less. This zoning change is being initiated by the City of Oregon on behalf of the owner, Edward A. Parker. Application Z-824-25 for zoning change of A1 Agricultural District to Advanced Manufacturing District on the property described as 535 North Wind Road, parcel number 44-09968, approximately 5.039 acres, more or less. This zoning change is being initiated by the City of Oregon on behalf of owners Norman and Patty Nicholson. The next one is application Z-8-825-25 for zoning change from A1 Agricultural District to Advanced Manufacturing District on the property described as 4961 Corduroy Road, parcel number 44-09967, approximately 1.541 acres, more or less. This zoning change is being initiated by the City of Oregon on behalf of owners Robert and Carol Lennon. And the last application is a SUE-189-25 for a special use in R2 Medium Density Residential Zone District for the purpose of operating a hair salon on the property described as parcel number 44-18527. The application owner is for Jennifer Cannon Pacina. The location is 506 South Allendorf Road. So those are being all set for August 25th, Monday, 2025. And if there is no further business before council, I will seek a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Mr. Drake, thank you. Council, any objections? This meeting is adjourned.